European rabbits.
In 1859, a British settler named Thomas Austin released 24 rabbits onto his property in Victoria, Australia, because he missed hunting them back home. Within 50 years, those 24 rabbits became 10 billion. Australia had never seen anything like it. No natural predators, unlimited grassland, perfect breeding conditions. Rabbits can reproduce at 3 months old and produce up to 12 kits per litter, with multiple litters per year. They ate everything: native grasses, shrubs, crops, tree bark, seedlings. They stripped the landscape so thoroughly that topsoil blew away, turning productive farmland into desert. Native animals that depended on the same vegetation started disappearing. Multiple plant species went extinct. Ground-nesting birds lost their habitats. Small marsupials were outcompeted for food and burrows. Australia tried everything. They built the longest fence in world history, stretching over 3,400 kilometers across Western Australia. They introduced myxomatosis, a virus that killed 99% of infected rabbits. The population crashed, then recovered as survivors developed resistance. They introduced another virus, calicivirus, in the 1990s. Same pattern. The rabbits always come back. Today, they still cause an estimated $200 million in agricultural damage annually across Australia.
Zebra mussels.
Zebra mussels arrived in the Great Lakes in the late 1980s, hiding in the ballast water of cargo ships from Eastern Europe. Each female produces up to 1 million eggs per year. They attach themselves to every hard surface they can find: pipes, boat hulls, docks, native mussels, rocks, even each other, forming layers so thick they clog water intake pipes at power plants, water treatment facilities, and industrial systems. The economic damage in North America exceeds $1 billion annually just in infrastructure costs. Pipes get blocked, cooling systems fail, water flow drops to nothing. But the ecological damage is worse. Zebra mussels are filter feeders, and they're absurdly efficient at it. A single mussel can filter 1 liter of water per day. When you have trillions of them, they strip the water column of phytoplankton and algae so completely that nothing is left for native species to eat. Fish populations collapse because the base of the food chain disappears. Native mussel species are being driven to extinction because zebra mussels attach directly to their shells, smothering them. They've spread to rivers and lakes across 30 states. Once they're in a waterway, they cannot be removed.
Asian carp.
Asian carp were originally imported to the southern United States in the 1970s to clean algae from catfish ponds and wastewater treatment plants. Then they escaped. 4 species, bighead, silver, grass, and black carp, are now established across the Mississippi River Basin and dozens of connected waterways. They eat between 20 and 40% of their body weight daily, consuming the plankton and vegetation that native fish need to survive. They outcompete everything. Populations of native species collapse wherever Asian carp establish themselves. Silver carp have an additional terrifying feature. They jump out of the water when startled by boat engines, launching themselves up to 3 meters into the air. Boaters have been hit in the face, knocked unconscious, and seriously injured by fish weighing up to 27 kilograms flying at them at speed. There are videos of dozens of carp exploding out of the water simultaneously around a single boat. The biggest fear is the Great Lakes. If Asian carp establish breeding populations there, the $7 billion fishing industry could collapse. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers has spent hundreds of millions on electric barriers in Chicago's waterways trying to hold the line. It's not clear if they'll succeed.
Red imported fire ants.
Red imported fire ants arrived in the United States around the 1930s through the port of Mobile, Alabama, likely in soil used as ballast on cargo ships from South America. They now infest over 360 million acres across the southern U.S., from Texas to the Carolinas. A single colony can contain up to 500,000 workers. When disturbed, they swarm aggressively. Their sting injects venom that causes intense burning pain, giving them their name, and produces white pustules that last for days. Multiple stings can cause anaphylaxis and death. About 80 deaths have been attributed to fire ant stings in the U.S. The ecological damage is staggering. Fire ants attack and kill ground-nesting birds, reptiles, and small mammals. They eat the hatchlings of sea turtles, quail, and songbirds. They destroy native ant species and disrupt entire invertebrate communities. Agricultural losses include damaged crops, destroyed electrical equipment, and livestock injuries. Total economic damage is estimated at $6 billion per year in the U.S. alone. Eradication has proven impossible. Every method tried, baits, pesticides, biological controls, slows them temporarily but never eliminates them. They keep spreading, now reaching parts of California and moving further north.
Brown tree snake.
After World War II, brown tree snakes hitched rides on military cargo from their native range in Australia and the South Pacific to the island of Guam. Guam had no native snakes. Its birds had never evolved defenses against snake predation. The result was ecological annihilation. Brown tree snakes ate their way through Guam's forests. Of the island's 12 native forest bird species, 10 are now completely gone, extinct on Guam. The Guam rail and Guam kingfisher survive only in captive breeding programs. The snakes didn't stop at birds. They decimated native lizard populations and small mammal populations as well. Without birds to control them, spider populations exploded so dramatically that parts of the island became covered in webs. The snakes also cause island-wide power outages by climbing utility poles and shorting electrical lines. Guam averages about 80 snake-caused power outages per year, costing millions. The snakes reach densities of up to 5,000 per square mile in some forested areas. The U.S. government has spent over $100 million trying to control them, including aerial drops of dead mice laced with acetaminophen, which is toxic to the snakes.
Feral pigs.
Feral pigs are arguably the most destructive invasive animal in the United States. An estimated 9 million roam across at least 35 states, and their population grows about 20% per year. They are ecological demolition machines. A single sounder of feral pigs can destroy an entire crop field overnight, rooting through the soil with their powerful snouts and devouring everything: corn, wheat, rice, peanuts, anything that grows. They eat ground-nesting bird eggs, deer fawns, lambs, kid goats, sea turtle eggs, salamanders, and snakes. Their rooting tears up native vegetation, causes erosion, and muddies waterways. They carry and spread at least 30 diseases and 37 parasites, including brucellosis, pseudorabies, and swine flu, threatening both livestock and humans. Agricultural damage exceeds $2.5 billion annually in the U.S. alone. They're nearly impossible to control because they're smart, breed rapidly, and adapt to any environment. Sows can produce 2 litters per year with up to 12 piglets each. They thrive in forests, swamps, grasslands, and suburban areas. Hunting barely dents the population. Experts estimate you'd need to remove 75% of feral pigs every year just to keep numbers stable.
Spotted lanternfly.
The spotted lanternfly was first detected in Pennsylvania in 2014, likely arriving on a shipment of stone from China. It has since spread across the northeastern United States and keeps expanding its range despite aggressive quarantine efforts. These insects feed by piercing plant tissue with a needle-like mouthpart and sucking out the sap. They attack over 70 plant species, including grapevines, apple trees, hops, hardwoods, and stone fruits. A heavy infestation can kill grapevines in a single season. The damage to the U.S. wine and grape industry alone is projected at hundreds of millions of dollars. When lanternflies feed, they excrete a sugary waste called honeydew that coats everything below them. This honeydew promotes the growth of sooty mold, a black fungus that covers leaves, fruit, and surfaces, further damaging plants and making fruit unmarketable. They spread so easily because they lay egg masses on practically anything: trees, cars, trucks, trains, outdoor furniture. A single egg mass contains 30 to 50 eggs. People unknowingly transport them across state lines on vehicles and shipments. Multiple states have issued quarantine orders. Residents are encouraged to kill them on site. Despite all efforts, the lanternfly continues to spread into new territories every year.
Nile perch.
In the 1950s, British colonial authorities introduced the Nile perch into Lake Victoria in East Africa to boost the fishing industry. The lake was home to an extraordinary diversity of cichlid fish, over 500 species found nowhere else on Earth, many of which had evolved within the lake over thousands of years. The Nile perch ate them. Growing up to 2 meters long and weighing over 200 kilograms, the Nile perch is a voracious apex predator. It consumes cichlids at a catastrophic rate. Over 200 species are believed to have gone extinct, the largest mass extinction of vertebrates in modern recorded history. Entire ecological food webs collapsed. Without the algae-eating cichlids, algae bloomed explosively across the lake, causing oxygen-depleted dead zones where nothing could survive. The local fishing economy was transformed. Small-scale fishermen who had sustained their families on diverse native fish were replaced by an industrial export operation. Nile perch fillets were shipped to Europe while local communities went hungry. The introduction was celebrated as an economic success story, while it simultaneously caused one of the worst ecological disasters of the 20th century. Scientists use Lake Victoria as the textbook example of what happens when you introduce a predator into a closed ecosystem.
Feral cats.
Domestic cats are one of the most devastating invasive predators on the planet, and the numbers are almost incomprehensible. In the United States alone, free-roaming cats kill an estimated 2.4 billion birds and 12.3 billion small mammals every year. Those aren't typos. Billion with a B. Worldwide, cats have contributed to the extinction of at least 63 species, including birds, mammals, and reptiles. Islands are the worst hit. Island species evolved without cat-sized predators and have zero defenses. On islands like Stevens Island in New Zealand, a single lighthouse keeper's cat is believed to have driven an entire bird species, the Stevens Island wren, to extinction. Feral cat colonies on islands across the Pacific, Caribbean, and Mediterranean continue to devastate native wildlife. The problem is massive in scale. An estimated 60 to 100 million feral cats live in the United States. They breed rapidly and hunt instinctively even when well fed. Outdoor pet cats kill too, contributing significantly to the total. Conservation scientists consistently rank cats among the top 3 threats to global biodiversity. Control efforts are controversial because people love cats. TNR programs, trap, neuter, return, reduce breeding, but cats still hunt for their entire lifespan.
Lionfish.
Lionfish are native to the Indo-Pacific, where natural predators keep their numbers controlled. In the Atlantic Ocean, they have no predators at all. They were first spotted off Florida's coast in the 1980s, likely released from home aquariums. Now they've colonized the entire western Atlantic, the Gulf of Mexico, and the Caribbean. A single female lionfish can release up to 2 million eggs per year. They eat over 50 species of fish and countless invertebrates, consuming prey up to half their own body length. They reduce native fish populations on a reef by up to 79% within just 5 weeks of establishing themselves. Their 18 venomous spines deter anything that might consider eating them. Lionfish eat juvenile fish that are critical to reef health, including species that clean algae off coral. Without those grazers, algae smothers the coral and the reef dies. Entire reef ecosystems are being fundamentally altered. The only effective control method so far is human hunting. Divers spear lionfish one at a time. Restaurants have started putting them on menus to incentivize harvesting. Lionfish derbies have become regular in the Caribbean. But humans can't dive deep enough or often enough. Lionfish thrive at depths beyond recreational diving limits, breeding unchecked in the deep.
Cane toads.
In 1935, Australia introduced 102 cane toads from Hawaii to control beetles that were destroying sugarcane crops in Queensland. The toads ignored the beetles entirely. Instead, they started eating everything else and breeding at a phenomenal rate. A single female produces up to 30,000 eggs per clutch, with multiple clutches per year. Australia now has over 200 million cane toads, and they're still spreading across the continent at roughly 50 kilometers per year. Their skin secretes bufotoxin, a poison potent enough to kill most animals that attempt to eat them. Native predators that evolved alongside non-toxic prey have no defense. Quolls, goannas, freshwater crocodiles, and multiple snake species have suffered massive population crashes after cane toads invaded their habitat. A goanna that eats a cane toad will likely die. Some species have declined by over 90% in areas where toads have arrived. The toads also outcompete native frogs for food and breeding sites. They eat native insects, small reptiles, bird eggs, and even smaller frogs. Every method of control has failed at scale. Trapping, fencing, biological agents, all unable to contain a population of hundreds of millions spread across a continent. Australia's cane toad problem has no solution in sight.
Burmese pythons.
Burmese pythons have effectively conquered the Florida Everglades, and the ecosystem is collapsing under them. Originally from Southeast Asia, they were released or escaped from the exotic pet trade during Hurricane Andrew in 1992 and through careless owners throughout the 1990s and 2000s. They found the subtropical swamps of South Florida to be a perfect habitat. The results have been catastrophic. Surveys show that mammal populations in the Everglades have declined by up to 99% since pythons became established. Raccoons, possums, and bobcats are down over 85%. Marsh rabbits and foxes have effectively vanished. These are not small snakes. Burmese pythons regularly exceed 5 meters in length and can weigh over 90 kilograms. They eat deer, alligators, birds, and anything else they can swallow. A single python was found with 3 deer in its stomach. Females lay 50 to 100 eggs per clutch. Their camouflage is so effective that they're nearly invisible in the Everglades vegetation, making population estimates difficult. Florida holds annual python hunting challenges, paying bounty hunters to remove them. In 2023, over 200 snakes were removed during one event. Estimates suggest between 100,000 and 300,000 pythons live in South Florida. Removing 200 barely registers.